The U.S. is once again federally in the business of murder, with the U.S. carrying out the first federal execution in 17 years at a prison in Indiana after a 5-4 Supreme Court ruling cleared the way. Love those 5-4 Supreme Court rulings that have the power of life and death. Daniel Lewis Lee, who was convicted of killing an Arkansas family in a plot to establish a whites-only nation, was executed by lethal injection early Tuesday. His execution, the first brought by the Federal Bureau of Prisons since 2003. Some of you watching this might not have even been born the last time the federal government carried out an execution, was initially halted on Friday over concerns about the coronavirus pandemic, which were raised by civil rights groups and relatives of Lee's victims who had sued to try to stop it. The reason for that is that many of the relatives of the victims don't want him to die. They believe that a life sentence in prison is punishment enough. But he did. After a short stay right before the execution, he stayed strapped to his gurney for 4 hours awaiting execution, just for a little bit more cruelty before the state, again, decided who lives and who dies. Yeah.
I mean, this is tough because, I mean, this guy was like, I think, a white supremacist, and, you know, I think it was like a racially motivated crime.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, like, for how barbaric the death penalty is and how cruel it is, and even like you just said, keeping him waiting for hours before they kill him, like that's pretty sadistic. That's twisted. What we need to understand about these types of cases is they start with things like this, where the most rational among us are sympathetic to the government's actions because this guy's a racist and he's a despicable person. But what if the line is what if it's a little bit more blurry?
Mm-hmm.
What if it's someone who, you know, the case is kind of up in the air. Maybe they were convicted as a minor. You know, like things like that, it becomes a little more difficult. But what we need to do is, if we oppose the death penalty, and I would encourage everyone watching to understand that we should not do this. We should not kill people as punishment, because we're no better than anybody else then. What we need to do is stand up against all cases, regardless of the crime or how heinous it is, for even the worst, like this white supremacist. And there's a book that I would encourage people to read. It just got turned into a movie, but I really would stress that you read the book, Just Mercy by Bryan Stevenson. He details his time dealing with death row inmates and helping, you know, trying to get some of them to reduce sentences or off, or off completely if they were innocent or wrongly convicted. Just fantastic work, and it really shows that, like, no one is defined by their worst act. Like, everyone has a little bit of good in them. We just need to work with them. Killing them is not going to solve the problem. You know, some people might be, you know, way harder, 99% chance that they don't change, but like, we can't kill people as punishment. It's so barbaric and cruel.
Exactly. Yeah, and you think about, you know, how many people have been executed that didn't actually do the crime. Like, every one of those could and should be a movie. The idea that someone could spend years or decades in prison and then be killed by the state, knowing the entire time that they didn't do it. Many of their family and friends probably started to believe that they did. Imagine the injustice. But we kill them, and thus we get, I don't know, what do we get? So this guy, he says he didn't do it. Let's say that he did, because he probably did. Seems terrible. Seems like a terrible guy. Obviously, a born act. He doesn't have a defender in the world. What do we get now that he's dead? Like, we are once again a state that sanctions murder. We've taught, you know, it's another reminder to Americans that killing is so fundamentally bad that the punishment should be killing. We've taught them that. We've had a demonstration of our values in that way. But what else have we actually gotten for it? I don't know. Another opportunity to potentially kill someone who didn't do it. And since, as you point out, this is how it starts, Barr back last year, moving to reinstate it. And maybe, you know, with a sane president, maybe they'll stop it again. You know, or maybe with a, you know, sort of cruel president, they'll do it just for the worst murders. Or maybe, hypothetically, you could have the federal death penalty revived under, for instance, a president who, you might recall when the Ukraine story first came out, said that spies should be murdered, and that the person who leaked it was a spy, so we should deal with him the way that we used to. Now, he didn't end up doing that, But he implied that the person who leaked about the phone call should be killed by the US government. Is that what we want? I would argue no. And I don't think that it should be up to the next insane, cruel person that we give the White House to. Under President Carlson, are you going to want him to be the one who decides who lives and who dies? I'm not. And I'm not comfortable with him choosing Supreme Court justices who are going to be making that decision. Because one of the things that comes out of this 5-4 decision is that Justice Stephen Breyer, joined by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, reiterated that it might be time to revisit the constitutionality of the death penalty. It might be time. Maybe they'll do it in the next few years. What justices will be on the court when that happens? We had just had a 5-4 decision in favor of going forward right now, so we have kind of an idea. What about that court minus RBG? And then put in a new conservative. Would they be more or less likely to say that it's okay for the US government to kill people? And again, victims or relatives of the victims are saying things like, for us, it is a matter of being there and saying, this is not being done in our name. We do not want this. But what does that mean? The actual experience of someone who lost someone compared to a conservative looking on this and saying, well, if someone killed my family member, I'd want them dead. This person actually went through the experience, and they're saying that they don't. But screw them. They don't get to weigh in on this.
Yep.
Let me play one.
It's so barbaric.
It absolutely is. And talking about what sort of president we could have had, it would have been nice to have someone like this.
In a world of so much violence and killing, I just don't believe that government itself should be part of the killing.
It's never going to stop bothering me. The opportunity that we had, that we lost earlier this year. It could have been so important, so significant. And what better time to provide a clear distinction in terms of morals, in terms of rhetoric, and in terms of substance, all at the same time. That was the opportunity that we had.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.